Hi everybody, this is Craig Tanner for The Mindful Eye and the photo of the week on the Daily Critique. This week's photo of the week was submitted by Michael, who is an intermediate photographer from Chicago. And the backstory on this one really in a lot of respects is the big takeaway from this photo of the week. Michael says that this shot was created as part of a series of some more straightforward modeling shots for a model whose name was Lena. He said most of her other shots are clear and either outdoors using natural light or in front of a backdrop well lit with 2 or 3 lights, more of a studio approach. He said in this instant he accidentally forgot to turn on his lights, which led to a shock like this being impacted by shutter drag as he dropped the camera. He said that gave him the idea to get a better image but with the same idea. So I kept the flashes off, kept the camera at f8 indoors in semi-dark conditions, and that gave me a nice long shutter speed to play with. Michael shot this with a Nikon D300, effective focal length of 38 millimeters, and sorry about that, don't know the effective focal length. That's probably, the D300 is a crop factor camera, so that's probably actually just a very, very short telephoto, just beyond normal, the effective focal length. And at ISO 200 and at f8, he exposed the file for 1.5 seconds. So this is just camera movement and available light, and most people know what I'm about to say, and that's just the idea of mistakes leading to creativity. I mean, there are all kinds of stories about mistakes as intuition, not only in the arts but in any area of discovery. We hear a lot of these kinds of things from laboratory experimentation or mistakes, where somebody trying to solve a problem makes a quote-unquote mistake, and then there's some kind of an epiphany, and then the mistake becomes something that you work with, like Michael has to get a shot that wasn't what he was expecting. And Michael went on to say how much he likes this shot and how much Lena likes the shot. I want to come back and talk a little bit more about that. One of the things that I like right away about this shot is that it's a very emotional shot for me. I get a real strong feeling from looking at it, and I think it's a combination of a lot of things. I think it's a combination of the way Lena looks here. To me, she almost looks like a dancer with what she's wearing. It's interesting, like before I read anything about the backstory, when I saw this shot, at least in my mind, I thought of the archetype of a dancer. Part of the reason was the shape of the shirt. Could be the top part of what a dancer might wear if they're in the studio, and then this part for me seemed like the motion of dance and the lower part of what a dancer might wear. And the other thing is just the expression here, to me, is such a contemplative expression, and so it goes along with this very sort of ethereal feeling of this being layered and looking through. The other thing, just a real sort of basic technical design thing that really works for me here, is just how beautifully and simply sort of positive and negative space shapes are playing out in this image. You have a pretty big area up here that goes very, very dark, but it's beautifully balanced by the torso of Lena down here in the bottom corner. Just a real simple balance there in terms of those shapes. And you also get the same kind of sense of balance moving on this diagonal. You have a negative space shape over here that flattens out, that's a definite shape, and even though the shapes aren't exactly the same, you have about the same amount of sort of volume of this space here as you do in this corner. And so real simple, beautiful balance moving from corner to corner, and real powerful movement from top left down to bottom right on this sort of double imaging or ghosting of Lena. I love how the ghost up here is sort of bigger and looking over, from a psychological or archetypal standpoint. When we think about human beings potentially being multi-dimensional, I mean, it's just a real classic archetype, that there's a part of us that's sort of bigger than we are, that's around us. You could call it our energy field. There's also just the idea of a higher self. And that's a real powerful archetype, the idea of the doppelganger, that we all have a double, and the psychological archetypes connected to that. And just the idea of this component sort of watching over us is also very psychologically powerful. color is really beautiful here. The colors that we do get a sense of in a real strong way, one of those colors is red and different variations of red. So as the value of red sort of changes and the hue of it changes and the saturation of it changes, get a real powerful sense of that. And red plays so beautifully with black. And then Lena's coloring is black. She has dark hair, dark eyes. She's wearing red lipstick. That picks up on the red movement in here. And then this other color that's almost it's almost sort of a bone color. It's definitely an earth tone. That's a very, very powerful color in the context of black and red. So it's moving towards a pretty strong sort of antique white, but white, black, and red play well together. And just this color that's sort of an antique or sepia, to me, that has sort of the same psychological kind of dreamy effect. You know, you could think about that color connected to faded photographs or something from another time. Just so many different things that are working well here, and beautiful qualities of movement and overlays, so many different things. And remembering back to the flashes aren't set or they don't go off and the camera's dropped, and then we look on the back of the camera and then there's an aha moment. You know, how can we reach these moments without potentially destroying a camera? You know, we maybe don't want to drop our camera on purpose. There are all different kinds of ways. There, in a process like this where you're working with a model, you can definitely build serendipity into the shoot. You can do it by trying a lens that you've never tried before. One of the things that I almost always do is a matter of course that I've done for a very long time when I shoot with lighting, is to always shoot some shots with the lights completely off, even if my left brain or my conscious mind knows that for the shot I'm going for, shot is needed. I had a classic example of this shooting a musician, I don't know, maybe now probably 6 weeks ago in Savannah, Georgia, where we scouted this location. I was using battery-powered strobe, and I turned it off and shot this person in silhouette in the same location, and that was some of their favorite shots from the shoot. So a sort of a different outcome than this, but the idea is that you can build serendipity in by always shooting with and without things. You can try new things. You can always play around with motion, particularly if you have neutral density. And I just really encourage you to have the faith to make this a part of your practice. So much of the time when we're working with other people, we set something up and we take a lot of time to do it. Fear can get us to just repeat ourselves over and over and over again. And before you go out to do your next shoot, you might make a list for yourself of all of the different ways that you might approach a subject, and one of which is just shooting without looking through the camera. You're shooting, and then you just say, you know what, I'm just going to, for a certain number of frames, just hold the shutter down and move the camera towards my subject and shoot pulling back out, and hold the camera high over my head and hold it low without even looking through. And let serendipity, let something that your left brain won't let you do, get you to a place where then you can do what Michael did. You see the mistake, and from there you build on it. It's just a stunningly beautiful image. Really appreciate, you know, Michael being brave enough and courageous enough to tell us that, hey, this just came from an accident. A lot of people's ego won't let them admit to these kind of things. It just, our ego wants to take credit for everything. When we start to let go and participate with consciousness that's potentially bigger than us, then I believe that we get a lot more creative. Big thank you to Michael for sharing this image with us. Hope you have a great weekend. Hope to see you again real soon on The Mindful Eye.